How's it going, everybody? My name's Eric. In this video, we have a battle of the printers. The Brother QL1110NWB versus the Brother TD-40, also known as the Brother TD-4550DNWB. So we're gonna go over cost, we're gonna go over design, the label compatibilities, the differences in the labels. We're gonna go over the printer features for some specifications. We'll talk about warranty. They're both from Brother, so it's actually equal at a 2-year warranty. We'll go over that right now. We're gonna talk about compatibility, platform compatibility, as well as hardware compatibility. iPhones, Androids, iOS, iPads, Mac computers, Windows computers, and I actually have a cost breakdown of when you break even if you buy one printer over the other. If you want to check anything specific out, there is an index in the description, but they are both great printers. I feel like this comparison is going to be very fair because they are both from the same company and they're kind of in the same consumer small business class of a printer that you might be looking at if you're doing shipping on eBay, shipping on Amazon, shipping on Poshmark, and especially if you want to be shipping from an iPhone. Before we go into anything else, in order to save you guys time, I'm going to give you a recommendation right off the bat so you don't have to watch the whole video. The reasons I'm giving this recommendation will be in the video. If you don't have a budget and don't have to print from an Android phone, I would say go with the Brother TD-4550DNWB. It will print from an iPhone, it will print from an iPad, it'll print from a Mac, a Windows. It doesn't use proprietary labels. It is more expensive, which is why I say if you don't have a budget. And in all other cases, if you do have a budget, or you have to print from an Android phone, I would say go with the Brother QL1110NWB. And with that recommendation, if you haven't already, please give the video a thumbs up so other people can find it and make better informed printing decisions. And if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing. We're talking mostly about shipping labels and mostly about small to medium sized businesses that sell products on eBay, Amazon, Poshmark, Shopify. That's kind of the context of the consumer that I'm looking at in this video. First thing we're going to talk about is cost. Money is very important to everybody. It's probably the most important thing to a lot of people. And the Brother QL1110NWB retails for $279.99 on Amazon when it's in stock. Probably because a lot of people like this printer, it sells out a lot. It's usually hovering closer to like $330 to $350 on Amazon because it sells out and then third parties sell it for more than it's actually retailed for to make a little bit of money. Now the TD-4550DNWB, I'm actually just gonna call this the TD-40 because it's just too much of a mouthful. As you can see right there, it says TD-40, although the actual name is TD-4550DNWB. The TD-40 is readily available on Amazon, but it's $521 or just about around there if you're buying it new. There are some that pop up used for around $420. I think I bought this one used at that $420 something price point. So looking strictly at price, the Brother QL1110NWB is about $240 cheaper, give or take the price, slight fluctuation on retail. But as the QL1110NWB sells out, it closes that gap even more. And if you bought the TD-40 used, it would close that gap even more, closer to about $100 price difference. That's probably more than you ever wanted to know about the two costs of these printers. Now we're going to look at design, physical design side by side. Here we got both printers side by side. There's the top profile, side profile, the bottoms of the printer. The backs look like this, where the TD-40 has an added serial port, not like anyone's gonna be printing from a serial port. The power supplies do differ. The Brother QL1110NWB has a built-in power supply, so all you need is this one cable, and the Brother TD-40 uses an external power supply, so this big chunky thing has to be sitting next to it. I personally like the streamlined look of this. However, if the power supply ever were to fail, getting it fixed on here is a lot harder than getting it fixed on here. So both have their benefits and drawbacks. From the front, you can see both of the printers have some buttons to do different functions on the front. However, the Brother TD has this nice display where you can navigate through the menus, and the Brother QL-1110NWB is just a few functions that you can do and button combinations for initial setup. Going inside the printer, you can see slightly different designs as well. Our roller is on the bottom, more traditional design on the Brother TD, with a dynamic label holder and an adjustable sensor position. And the print head is on the top of the Brother TD-40. The Brother QL-1110NWB has the roller on the top, which is driven by a gear down here. The print head is on the bottom, and it has a sensor right here, and these pins right here are a sensor as well. The Brother TD-40, also you can feed rear labels, and you wouldn't need that on here because this uses the proprietary label design. Brother designed this to be used with these DK style labels. It uses this label holder, which gets placed down in this notch and sits like this. These feet are going to press the pins down here in a certain order, which lets the printer know what size label have been loaded in it. Once that's loaded, it also needs to be fed through here. This little black square also is sensed by the printer itself, and it doesn't read that black square. It's going to throw an error. This proprietary design of labels is more expensive, but when you look at the Brother TD-40, this uses a non-proprietary label design. It just uses sensors and calibration to print to any non-proprietary labels. Cost per print on these can be brought down to $0 if you get free labels from FedEx or UPS. While the cost for these labels, I've gotten down to 2.3 cents per label at the cheapest with buying them in bulk from third-party Amazon sellers. I will put a link to the cheapest labels that I found for this printer in the description so you can check that out. Non-proprietary label design is the best because you're not limited by a certain type of labels. So between these two labels, non-proprietary labels definitely win. It's gonna save you in the long run, and it's just a better overall design. What would be a comparison video without a sample print? So I can show you guys how each one prints. We're gonna print a sample label from Android over here and a label from iPhone over here, because believe it or not, this printer works with everything except for Android. Neither of them work for Chromebook, just in case you're wondering. Exact labels pulled up. I'm going to hit print on both of them at the same time just to see who actually prints faster. The Brother QL-1110NWB has received the signal, and it just about took about, I might have to do that again. It kind of took about the same time. This printed it out a little bit slower, but this took longer to actually receive the signal. So I don't know. I might have to do that again. 1, 2, print. Okay, I don't know why, but the second time it received the signal, it printed super fast. So I don't know. I couldn't really explain why that happened. Maybe router traffic or something, but this is clearly the faster printer, although fast doesn't really make a lot of difference in the grand scheme of things. So I hope you enjoyed the demonstration and some of the physical differences between these two printers. Now we're going to go on to some technical specifications. Now we're gonna look at features and specs, and both of these printers are very, very close when it comes to features and specs. They're both thermal printers. They don't use ink, they don't use toner. They just use a print head to make contact with the paper and heat it up in order to transfer that image. They both print in 300 dpi, which is a resolution in printing, meaning that it's dots per inch, which translates pretty much to the image quality that you get on your printout. 300 dpi is middle of the road. It's going to print better than 203 dpi, but it's going to print worse than 600 dpi. 203 dpi is kind of the standard, so both of them being 300 dpi is a nice bonus. You shouldn't have any clarity issues unless you are printing really small text or very high resolution images, which you shouldn't be printing with these anyways. You should just be printing like barcodes and shipping labels or product labels and things of that sort. One of the features, or it could also be considered annoying, of the Brother QL-1110NWB is this has an auto cutter. You can't really rip the labels out of it. Apple, I have not been able to adjust the cut settings so it prints one label and then cuts it. On Windows and Android, I have been able to turn off the auto cutter. That might be an annoyance to you. It might be a feature. That's up to you. While the TD-40 does not have a cutter, I believe that they do have options to add a cutter to it. For this printer, you just have to rip the perforated labels once it prints. Now we're going to talk about platform compatibility, and between the two of these, platform compatibility is equal. Anything that can be formatted in a 4x6 format can be printed on either of these printers. So that's eBay once you change your settings to 4x6, Poshmark once you change your settings to 4x6, Shopify once you change your settings to 4x6, Facebook Marketplace, and guess what? Once you change your settings to 4x6, Mercari still doesn't have a 4x6 format, Depop still doesn't have a 4x6 format. It will work with Pirate Ship, which has a lot of flexible dimension settings. However, UPS and FedEx both don't really work well with anything other than their provided printers. If you're going onto UPS's website or FedEx's website, it might give you an issue and you'd have to do a little crop workaround in order to print those. I don't think you can print natively from the websites with these printers. They've built and integrated their sites to be compatible just with the printers that they supply, which I believe is a Zebra ZP450 or ZP500 maybe, or ZP550. FedEx and UPS are not in the printer troubleshooting business, so they've streamlined, I guess, their system to work well just with a handful of printers, and they're all Zebra. Do keep that in mind. If you're buying this specifically to integrate with UPS software, you're probably gonna have issues with them. That won't have a ton of native ZPL integration. There is still some programming capabilities that's beyond what I know how to do, but they are more of the prosumer consumer type of printer. Now for hardware, I mentioned it earlier in the video, I'm still waiting for the perfect printer that can print from everything wirelessly, seamlessly, with non-proprietary labels, but nobody wants to create this printer yet. So this is where we're at. They both have Bluetooth, they both can be networked wirelessly or with an Ethernet cable, they both can be printed with USB. The Brother QL-1110NWB works with everything except for Chromebooks, iPhones, Android, phones, tablets, iPads, MacBooks, Windows computers. It even says Linux, even though I've never personally tested it on Linux. It works wirelessly through all the devices, and then you can also hook it up with a USB to a computer. If you don't have a wireless network, or your network goes down, or you're at a place where you don't have access to the network, you can always backup print via USB. Now, with the Brother TD-40, although it is a more expensive printer, for some reason, that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't work with Android. It doesn't work with Android phones. I don't know why, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why a more expensive printer wouldn't work with Android, but it doesn't. Maybe they'll support it in the future to where it can, but right now it doesn't. It will work with everything else, everything as equal to the Brother QL-1110NWB, but this one does not work with Android. I was able to do a weird plug into the back, print through Android cable, but the prints didn't come out perfect. They kind of came out awkwardly sized, but it did work and they would scan, but I wouldn't really recommend getting this just for that use. That's kind of like a backup if something happens and you have to print from your mobile phone, like worst case scenario kind of thing, which gives the Brother QL-1110NWB a leg up. Even though it's cheaper, it works with Android wirelessly. Now we're gonna get into the break-even price between these two printers. As you saw before, this uses proprietary labels, which cost money. These use non-proprietary labels, which you can get for free. So there is a calculation that I'm gonna walk you through, which kind of shows you the break-even point if you were to buy the Brother TD over the Brother QL-1110NWB. So here's my calculation for the break-even point at how many labels it's going to take for the difference in cost of the Brother TD-40 versus the cheaper QL-1110NWB. This uses proprietary labels. So the cost of those proprietary labels will accumulate, and eventually it would have been cheaper just to use the TD-40 that can use free labels. The QL-1110NWB is $279.99 when it's in stock. The TD-40 is $521.85 on Amazon, and the labels cost $0. The QL-1110NWB labels cost approximately 2.33 cents. And the way that I calculated that, there's a pack of 2400 DK1241 labels on Amazon for $55.99. So we do $55.99 divided by 2400 labels, and that gives us the cost per label in dollars. We move it over 2 decimal places to get 2.33 cents. So how many of these would we have to print in order to make up the price difference in these? Well, first we need to look at the cost difference between the two, which is $241.86. That is this minus this. And then we took that cost difference, we put that over X amount of labels, and that's going to equal the cost of $0.0233 per one label, which we got when we calculated up here. We're going to solve for X by multiplying 241.86 by 1 divided by 0.0233, and that's going to give us how many labels we would have to print in order to cover that cost difference between these two printers. And the break-even point is 10,380 labels that you would have to print from the Brother TD that costs you nothing in order to pay the difference between this printer and this printer. Hopefully that's not confusing. Double check my math. I'm pretty sure it's right. And if you have any questions about it, put it in the comment section and I'll try my best to get back to you. Now, this number may take you months, it may take you years, it just depends on your business, but that's kind of how you would do the calculation. So in conclusion, they're both great printers. I've enjoyed using both of them. If you have to print from Android or you're on a budget, get the Brother QL-1110NWB and then buy third-party labels off of Amazon. Otherwise, if you don't have to print from Android, go with the Brother TD-40. You can use the free non-proprietary labels from FedEx or UPS, and then you're eventually going to break even in the cost difference. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of information to cover. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions about either of these printers, put them in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please give the video a thumbs up, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.